Thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Today we're diving deep into the greatest scientific theories on consciousness. Does the human brain create consciousness, or does consciousness create the human brain? How can consciousness exist outside of the brain? Does consciousness require a self? Can higher dimensions solve consciousness's hard problem? Is consciousness the collapse of the wave function? Does the brain hallucinate conscious reality? Could psychedelics help quantify our waking state? Is consciousness a continuous stream, or a series of discrete moments? What is hypnagogia, the state between wakefulness and sleep? Can lucid dreaming help us understand consciousness? How does déjà vu relate to brain function and consciousness? Let's delve into the answers to these questions with a comprehensive scientific perspective. Awareness is believed to originate in the brain, a notion widely held by experts in neuroscience, and for good reasons. The interactions we engage in daily are intricately linked to the functioning of our brain and its extensive network. For instance, a severe knock to the head can render one unconscious, a phenomenon well known among boxers. Injuries to the brain's primary visual cortex eliminate the ability to consciously see. Changes in the brain's chemical environment due to sickness or the intake of mind-altering substances affect our senses, thoughts, and emotions. Psychedelic substances, like LSD and mescaline, can cause profound shifts in experiences, from extreme euphoria to intense despair. Simply put, our normal state of being aware seems to rely greatly on the brain, yet claiming that the brain generates consciousness might be an overreach. Being reliant on something doesn't equate to being produced by it. Let's use some comparisons. The fresh, cool breeze we enjoy from an air conditioner doesn't originate from the device itself. It simply takes in outside air, cools it down, and removes any contaminants. Similarly, a faucet doesn't create water, but merely manages its flow. When we draw back curtains, daylight pours into a space, yet the curtains aren't the source of the daylight. They only allow the light's entry into the area. Such comparisons were enlightening when, towards the end of the 19th century, a number of thinkers, including William James, Frederick Myers, F.C.S. Schiller, and Henry Bergson, challenged the prevalent physiological simplification of their era, proposing an alternate view to the brain's role in producing consciousness. They introduced the concept known as the filter or transmission theory of brain function, or simply filter theory. In this model, the brain is crucial, but instead of generating consciousness, it accesses a pre-existing state of awareness. The essential terms here are filter, transmit, allow, channel, select, draw out, constrain, control, shape, alter, not produce, bring forth or invent. Proponents of the filter theory argue that our daily awareness is buttressed by a concealed sphere or well of consciousness. This perspective emerged during a period marked by a heightened focus on the idea of a subconscious mind. Some, like the physiologist W.B. Carpenter, viewed subconscious mental processes strictly through a physiological lens, dubbing it unconscious cerebration, while others were open to ascribing consciousness to the subconscious. James, Myers, Pierre Janet, and Moore saw dual or multiple personalities as indicators of concealed conscious states existing alongside our primary consciousness. The concept of subliminal or transmarginal consciousness aimed to illuminate a broad array of enigmatic occurrences, including somnambulism and hysteria, as well as memory and dreaming, creativity, psychic events, and mystical experiences. It might be thought that the realm of subliminal awareness is restricted to individual consciousness, yet evidence such as psychic abilities like telepathy and clairvoyance, and potentially even broader if cosmic mystical experiences are taken into account, suggest it could have a wider scope. Therefore, Edward F. Kelly coined the term roster, or resonant opening to subliminal and transpersonal assets for these theories. While not committing to a specific extent of the subliminal, James referred to the mother sea of consciousness in his 1897 Ingersoll lecture titled Human Immortality, a foundational presentation of filter theory. Many years later, writer and philosopher Aldous Huxley, who reintroduced filter theory to the new age of psychedelic exploration in his mescaline-driven work, The Doors of Perception, termed it mind at large. Under the framework of filter theory, everyday or supraliminal awareness is thought to emerge from the deeper, subliminal ocean of consciousness by the restrictive functions of physical matter, namely the brain and nervous system, along with related psychological mechanisms. These serve as a filter or chooser, selecting certain subliminal elements to be part of our conscious experience, while leaving out much else. According to Huxley, the brain and nervous system function like a reducing valve that channels the vast mind at large into a more manageable stream. The process of choosing what subliminal information to bring to consciousness is guided by practicality and the need for survival. Often, only information that is directly beneficial or essential for an organism's survival is selected. Perception is typically narrowed and concentrated for efficiency. The filtering process also offers a safeguard, as the immense amount of potential information could be either too intense or unsettling. When there's a shift in the normal operations of these biological and psychological filters, through methods like meditation to calm the mind's chatter, easing of survival pressures, experiences of trauma, or the influence of psychoactive substances, previously blocked content might be allowed into our conscious awareness. Thus, filter theory provides an explanation for various extraordinary and transcendent experiences. The pioneers behind filter theory acknowledged their use of analogies and metaphors, recognizing the lack of specific mechanistic details in their descriptions. Their goal was to propose an alternative perspective on brain and nervous system functions that doesn't rely on the simplistic notion of direct creation. While contemporary neuroscience offered little insight into the filtering processes, some philosophical speculations were possible. When James introduced filter theory, he framed it within the context of mind-body dualism, suggesting a physical brain acts as a filter for consciousness. But his aim was to challenge the dominant dualism that posited a physical brain as the creator of consciousness. James was open to exploring other metaphysical frameworks, such as idealism and neutral monism, where the distinction between brain and consciousness isn't as stark. These approaches to metaphysics potentially bypass the challenging mind-body problem, the issue of reconciling materialistic brain function with the non-material nature of consciousness. Bergson also explored this avenue in his work, Matter and Memory, applying filter theory to the study of normal perception and memory, and later to phenomena like telepathy and life review experiences near death. His philosophical foundation can be described as neutral monism, considering the basic constituents of the universe as fundamentally neutral to the distinctions between mind and matter. In this view, both the brain and the body, like everything else in the universe, consist of neutral images. Perception, then, is the process of selecting certain images over others, with the brain and body themselves composed of a specific set of these images. Filter theory remains relevant today as a philosophical counter to the simplistic belief that the brain is the sole creator of consciousness. At its core, it serves as a thought-provoking tool that prompts deeper consideration of brain functions. Yet, its significance may extend even further. Recent efforts have been directed towards rejuvenating the insights of filter theorists, integrating them with the broader and more varied empirical evidence now accessible to scholars. Part of this evidence emerges from the revitalized domain of psychedelics research, which is experiencing a renaissance for both therapeutic purposes and fundamental neuroscientific exploration after years of dormancy. This resurgence is facilitated by legal approvals, marking a significant shift in the study of consciousness and brain function. A modern interpretation of how psychedelics function, known as rebus, relaxed beliefs under psychedelics, shares some conceptual ground with earlier filter theories, particularly in its assertion that psychedelics facilitate a loosening of entrenched high-level beliefs, like those surrounding the self, thereby allowing for an unleashing of upward information flow from the brain's limbic system, among other areas. Nonetheless, rebus differs from the filter theories previously mentioned, which propose that the easing of psychobiological barriers enables access to a deeper, subliminal awareness. It does not align with Huxley's concept of roster, involving reducing valves and the expansive mind at large. Rebus does not explicitly account for subliminal consciousness, especially not one that extends beyond the individual's mind and brain to the external world. Therefore, it's a matter of debate whether rebus can fully address the spectrum of experiences induced by psychedelics, including mystical and near-death-like experiences and parapsychological events. To encompass these, the notion of mind at large might need to be considered. Before we dive deeper into today's topic, a quick shout-out to our sponsor today, Squarespace. Squarespace is the perfect platform for anyone, from artists to entrepreneurs, looking to establish a captivating website without diving into the complexities of coding or the expense of hiring a professional designer. Its award-winning templates are not just aesthetically pleasing, but also incredibly user-friendly, ensuring that your website not only looks professional, but also functions seamlessly. Whether you're aiming to start a personal blog, showcase a portfolio, or even sell products through an online store, Squarespace has got you covered. Its platform is designed to support a wide range of needs, including audio blocks for podcasts, social media integration for broader engagement, and powerful analytics tools to track your site's performance and understand your audience better. Start with a free trial at squarespace.com. When you're ready to launch, visit squarespace.com/bigscientificquestions to enjoy a 10% discount on your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you, Squarespace, for sponsoring today's video. Our instincts, honed by natural selection, swiftly deliver crucial survival information, equipping us for modern challenges as well. For instance, our innate ability to sense danger in our surroundings without conscious understanding can save us from threats, such as feeling uneasy about entering an elevator with a stranger without knowing why. However, these gut feelings can mislead us, particularly in areas like science and philosophy, which evolution didn't anticipate. An intuition is a strong belief in something's truth without knowing why, a feeling that may or may not reflect reality. Exploring our intuitions about consciousness reveals complexities in what seemed like simple truths. Consider these questions, noting your initial reactions as we delve into common intuitions and misconceptions. Given a conscious entity, like the human brain, how can we identify signs of consciousness from the outside? Is consciousness vital for our actions? These questions are interconnected, but examining them separately is insightful. It's feasible for consciousness to exist without external manifestations, as illustrated by locked-in syndrome. In this condition, a person is fully conscious but nearly completely paralyzed, as in the case of Jean-Dominique Bauby, the former French Elle editor-in-chief. Despite his paralysis from a stroke, Bauby communicated by blinking his left eye, using this method to write his memoir, The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, with around 200,000 blinks. Another example is anesthesia awareness, where patients remain conscious but paralyzed during surgery, experiencing the procedure without the ability to signal their awareness. These instances, while extreme, suggest that consciousness can be present without outward signs, even in AI, raising questions about detecting and understanding consciousness in beings and systems beyond our current comprehension. Let's reconsider our initial inquiry. What indicators might suggest the presence of consciousness? Typically, we gauge an organism's consciousness by observing its actions. Guided by our instincts, we generally adhere to the belief that humans are conscious, whereas plants are not. This distinction, strongly supported by both common sense and scientific evidence, hinges on the assumption that consciousness requires a brain or a central nervous system. However, the challenge arises when we look at behaviors typically associated with conscious beings, such as response to injury or nurturing behaviors, which plants also exhibit in sophisticated ways. Despite this, we conclude that plants engage in these behaviors without the capacity for pain or affection, indicating a lack of consciousness. In What a Plant Knows, a field guide to the senses, biologist Daniel Chamovitz delves into the intriguing ways plants respond to external stimuli like touch, light, and temperature, showing reactions comparable to those of animals under similar circumstances. For instance, vines alter their growth in response to touch, sensing potential structures to cling to, and the Venus flytrap differentiates between inanimate disturbances and potential prey, closing its trap swiftly upon the latter. Chamovitz highlights that plant cells, when stimulated, undergo changes leading to an electrical signal that mirrors the response of animal nerve cells, involving a complex interaction of ion channels and other cellular components. Moreover, he points out genetic similarities between plants and animals, revealing that certain genes governing light perception and response in plants are also found in humans, affecting various biological functions from cell division to immune response. His research also touches on the plant's capability to detect sounds, smells, their surroundings, and even their capacity for memory, suggesting that while the mechanisms may resemble those of animals, the absence of consciousness in plants as we understand it remains a prevailing scientific stance. If we consider memory as the process of forming, retaining, and recalling information, then, according to certain observations, plants appear to have the capacity for memory. Take, for instance, the Venus flytrap, which only snaps shut after 2 separate stimuli on its sensory hairs, implying it remembers the first touch. Similarly, wheat seedlings recall enduring cold conditions, a necessary precursor to flowering and seed production. Moreover, some plants exposed to stress produce offspring more resilient to similar challenges, indicating a form of transgenerational memory, a phenomenon observed in the animal kingdom as well. Ecologist Suzanne Simard has significantly advanced our understanding of forest ecology through her studies on mycorrhizal networks, intricate underground fungal systems that facilitate nutrient and information exchange among plants. Her findings, including the mutual support between Douglas fir and paper birch trees, and the preferential treatment of Douglas fir mother trees towards their own offspring, suggest a complex level of interplant communication and interaction, reminiscent of an Earth's natural internet. However, these sophisticated behaviors and communications among plants don't necessarily imply consciousness, especially in the sense of having subjective experiences. When considering advanced robotics or AI, we encounter similar dilemmas. An AI that comforts a human or an algorithm that anticipates our search queries doesn't inherently possess consciousness. It's the complexity of programming, not consciousness, that drives these actions. This leads to the question of whether consciousness is a prerequisite for certain behaviors, or if it's enough for a system to simply simulate those behaviors convincingly. The challenge lies in distinguishing between genuine conscious experience and complex, yet unconscious programming, a distinction that remains elusive, as both conscious and non-conscious entities can exhibit behaviors typically associated with emotional or cognitive states. Our immediate responses to the initial question of what signifies consciousness are now under scrutiny, leading us to a second inquiry. Does consciousness serve a crucial role in, or does it influence, the physical system it inhabits? Theoretically, one could perform all their actions and express all their thoughts without experiencing consciousness, akin to an advanced robot's operation, although such a notion is challenging to grasp. This concept is encapsulated in the philosophical zombie thought experiment popularized by David Chalmers. He encourages us to envision a person who externally behaves indistinguishably from anyone else, but lacks any internal subjective experience. This idea has sparked debate, with philosophers like Daniel Dennett arguing against the feasibility of such a scenario, positing that consciousness is intrinsic to a functioning human brain. Exploring the possibility of zombies among us encourages a deeper examination of our assumptions about consciousness and its manifestations. By imagining scenarios where individuals exhibit behaviors typically associated with consciousness, like expressing concern during an emergency without actually experiencing it, we're prompted to question the necessity of consciousness for such actions. This thought experiment not only challenges our perceptions of human behavior, but extends its implications to our understanding of the natural world. Observing behaviors in non-human entities that mirror those in humans, such as a starfish navigating around obstacles despite lacking a central nervous system, prompts reconsideration of our assumptions about consciousness in living systems. The philosophical zombie scenario ultimately reveals the limitations of our intuitions regarding consciousness. It demonstrates that the line we draw between conscious and non-conscious beings based on observed behavior may lack a solid foundation. By metaphorically removing our glasses, we see that our deeply ingrained beliefs about consciousness and its association with certain behaviors may need re-evaluation, inviting a broader perspective on the complex phenomena of consciousness in both humans and the natural world. We often view ourselves as the conscious being, the one who perceives and experiences. As we look around and shift our attention to different objects, it feels like we are inside our heads, behind our eyes, directing a focus of awareness to consciously notice things. This innate belief about the mind has been incorporated into the study of consciousness in both science and philosophy, leading to misconceptions about the true nature of experience. This entity isn't the physical self. It is perceived to be within us, the possessor of the body, the you, listening these words right now. While consciousness is indeed an attribute of the physical entity, it doesn't belong to the conscious being that seems to be situated in our minds. This idea of conscious beings dates back to the early days of scientific thought, notably with René Descartes. Descartes envisioned the natural world as devoid of consciousness, with humans deemed conscious due to a transcendent entity that could illuminate our understanding of the world. However, to fully comprehend consciousness, introducing an inherently conscious being merely relocates the explanatory challenge. What makes that conscious being aware? If it's inherently aware, then consciousness remains a mystery. If not, then what awakens its consciousness? Another being within it. This line of thought leads to an infinite regress, leaving consciousness forever unexplained. Philosopher Daniel Dennett has critiqued this idea as the Cartesian theater. Many scientific theories on consciousness also propose a self-like mechanism within the brain, tasked with bestowing the enlightening quality of consciousness onto the brain's processed information. The brain functions as a hierarchically structured network, with sensory data entering at a lower level and ascending through various layers of processing. Unlike the initial stages that analyze sensory information, the higher levels handle cognitive tasks, such as decision-making and attention management. Some theories suggest that consciousness arises from a bottom-up process, emerging spontaneously from the brain's processing activities. In contrast, other theories view consciousness as a top-down phenomenon, stemming from reflective thought by the brain's more advanced regions. The brain's organization ensures that sensory data is primarily processed in its posterior part, while tasks like decision-making and focusing are managed by frontal areas. Evidence from neural correlates of consciousness in both the front and back regions of the brain supports both bottom-up and top-down approaches. A challenge arises because frontal brain areas are active during communication. When subjects report their conscious experiences in experiments, it's unclear whether the activity in the frontal areas is related to their role in consciousness or merely due to the act of articulating conscious experiences. A novel study addressed this by interpreting subjects' experiences through physiological signals, such as pupil size changes, eliminating the need for verbal reports and thus minimizing frontal brain area involvement. Therefore, the neural mechanisms associated with a self-reflective subject may not be central to consciousness, but rather involved in expressing conscious content. Moreover, beyond neuroscientific investigations, phenomenological studies show that the self is not the bearer of experiences. Through meditation or psychedelic experiences, people often encounter states of consciousness without a psychological self, yet consciousness remains. These experiences suggest that consciousness does not depend on an experiencing subject, but is rather an unstructured awareness, a void where experiences, including the sense of self, manifest. Consciousness is where the concept of a psychological self can arise, not owned by the self, but an experiential space for its emergence. A conscious system is seen as capable of forming basic beliefs about the world's qualities. Here, belief refers to the simple ability to perceive the world in a certain manner, such as recognizing a red apple's attributes. This view aligns with Immanuel Kant's idea that we never see reality as it is, but encounter representations of it. Our consciousness shapes our perceptions based on these representations. Bayesian inference, a field focused on optimally updating beliefs with new information, highlights a challenge: the brain's incapacity to know every possible cause for each piece of evidence. The free energy minimization approach, as detailed in Carl Friston's free energy principle, offers a way for the brain to adjust hypotheses about sensory input based on the unexpectedness of evidence, effectively aligning beliefs closer to reality. Furthermore, this principle explains our actions in the world. Active inference involves forming a hypothesis about the world being different from its current state, like the intention to stand from sitting. The brain generates a belief of standing and then acts to reduce the discrepancy between expected and actual states, resulting in achieving the desired posture. Anil Seth's beast machine theory suggests that the subjective experience of a consistent self over time is a Bayesian belief, maintained through prediction error reduction. This process confirms and perpetuates the belief in a unified, continuous self. Assuming consciousness requires complex cognitive mechanisms for introspection may lead us to believe that only humans or similar beings are conscious. If, however, consciousness is simpler and more fundamental than the self, it suggests that consciousness could be more widespread. Removing the concept of the subject allows us to consider consciousness not as an outcome of advanced reflective capabilities, but as a basic ability inherent. In the intricate tapestry of philosophical thought, the quote from Heraclitus, "The waking have one common cosmos," but the sleeping turn aside each into a cosmos of their own, serves as a profound starting point for an exploration into the nebulous relationship between consciousness, mind, and the physical reality, matter. This exploration necessitates a departure from traditional philosophical inquiries, embarking on a speculative journey that examines the nature of space and its connection to sentience. This odyssey, embracing revolutionary perspectives, seeks to unravel the cosmic riddle that is the mind-matter mystery by dissecting space into its various manifestations and considering its implications beyond the familiar three dimensions. At the heart of our philosophical quest lies the Cartesian dichotomy, which posits matter as spatially extensive and the mind or consciousness as devoid of spatial attributes. This division not only underpins the scientific view of nature as a mere mechanical entity, but also sets the stage for William James's critique of the Cartesian assumption. James challenges the notion of experience as inextensive, arguing instead for the inherent spatiality of mental phenomena. His earlier work, The Spatial Quale, highlights how spatial properties are not exclusive to the external world, but also pervade our imaginative experiences. The journey through the philosophical landscape leads us to delineate two distinct yet interconnected types of space: physical and sentient. Physical space, our shared reality, contrasts with the sentient space of individual experiential realms, encompassing not only the imaginative, but also the spaces of hypnagogia, psychedelics, and dreams. Bertrand Russell and Alfred North Whitehead contribute to this discourse by emphasizing the non-identical nature of perceived and material spaces, hinting at a complex relationship between the two that transcends mere physicality. The concept of dimensions beyond the familiar three emerges as a pivotal theme in this philosophical investigation. The speculation about hyperspace offers a potential framework for understanding the elusive connection between mind and matter. Invoking Leibniz's proposition of infinitely many spaces and worlds coexisting without physical distance sets the stage for considering a multidimensional universe where the mental and physical realms might intertwine. The more broad Smithy's theory emerges as a radical proposition within this context, suggesting that mental and physical phenomena could coexist within a larger, multidimensional space. This theory challenges traditional notions of dualism, emergentism, and idealism by positing a space that encompasses both the common cosmos and the individual cosmos. It speculates on a reality where the imagined and the physical are not disparate entities, but intersect within a grander spatial framework, potentially offering a novel approach to the mind-matter conundrum. The journey through these philosophical landscapes raises profound questions about the nature of reality, consciousness, and the fabric of the cosmos. By extending the inquiry into dimensions beyond our immediate perception, this exploration not only challenges our understanding of space and sentience, but also invites us to reconsider the very foundations of our worldviews. The speculation about a unified space of mind and matter hints at a cosmos where the divisions between the internal and external, the mental and the physical, are not rigid boundaries, but fluid interfaces within a greater multidimensional reality. In conclusion, the speculative trip through the philosophical realms of mind, matter, and space reveals a universe far more intricate and interconnected than traditionally conceived. By transcending the limitations of existing concepts and embracing the possibilities of multidimensional spaces, this exploration offers a glimpse into a reality where the cosmic riddle of consciousness and the physical world might one day be unraveled. It is a reminder of the infinite mysteries that lie at the heart of existence, beckoning us to continue our quest for understanding with an open mind and a spirit of bold speculation. Consciousness, an enigma at the heart of our existence, serves as the lens through which we perceive reality, craft our thoughts, and experience emotions. It is the quintessence of our being, yet it remains one of the most profound mysteries, evading a complete understanding despite millennia of inquiry across diverse cultures and intellectual traditions. This exploration into consciousness reveals a tapestry of perspectives, each offering insights into the fundamental nature of reality, the essence of our being, and the intricacies of the universe itself. At one end of the spectrum, consciousness is revered as the foundation of all that exists, suggesting that the material universe is but a shadow cast by the deeper reality of consciousness. This viewpoint echoes through various spiritual traditions and philosophical discourses, proposing that the essence of the universe is consciousness itself, with physicality being a derivative or illusory manifestation. It speaks to a cosmic symphony where consciousness conducts the material phenomena. Contrastingly, a more skeptical stance posits that consciousness might itself be the illusion, a mere byproduct of neural processes with no actual control or authentic experience. This perspective paints a picture of human existence as a passive journey, where consciousness is not the driver but a spectator, encapsulating T.H. Huxley's sentiment of being helpless spectators. Such a view challenges the centrality of consciousness in defining reality, suggesting a mechanical universe where consciousness is an epiphenomenon. The analogy of the brain as a computational apparatus represents another significant viewpoint, drawing parallels between the mind's workings and the evolution of information technologies. From ancient metaphors likening memory to impressions in wax, to modern comparisons with computers and digital networks, this analogy reflects humanity's attempt to understand the brain's complexities through the prism of technological advancements. However, critics argue that this computational model, while useful for mapping non-conscious processes, falls short of encapsulating the subjective essence and depth of consciousness. It raises crucial questions about the interface between algorithmic processes and the qualitative experiences of consciousness, pointing to a gap in our understanding. Venturing into the quantum realm, the theories of renowned physicist Roger Penrose introduce a revolutionary perspective that intertwines consciousness with the fundamental physics of the universe. Penrose's objective reduction theory proposes that consciousness emerges from the principles of quantum mechanics, specifically from the collapse of the quantum wave function at the juncture between the quantum and classical worlds. This theory not only offers a scientific basis for consciousness, but also addresses the enigmatic measurement problem in quantum mechanics, suggesting a universe where consciousness and quantum phenomena are deeply interlinked. Penrose's collaboration with Stuart Hameroff led to the orchestrated objective reduction theory, positing that quantum vibrations in brain microtubules are instrumental in the orchestration of consciousness. This theory likens consciousness to music emanating from the universe's fundamental structure, suggesting that quantum processes within the brain's microtubules play a critical role in generating conscious experience. Skepticism initially greeted this theory due to the challenges of sustaining quantum coherence in the brain's warm, wet conditions. However, recent discoveries supporting quantum optical states in microtubules have reignited interest in the quantum foundations of consciousness. This quantum perspective on consciousness suggests a model where conscious experiences emerge not only from complex neural networks, but also from deeper quantum processes that reach into the very fabric of space-time. Here, consciousness is envisioned as a fundamental aspect of the universe, echoing through the microtubules in neurons and extending to the cosmos's vast expanse. Light, especially organic light, emerges as a pivotal element in this discourse, serving as a potential conduit between the brain's quantum processes and the broader consciousness-infused structure of the universe. The symbolic and literal associations of consciousness with light span across cultures and epochs, from the luminous auras of deities to the enlightening experiences of mystics, suggesting a profound connection between light, life, and consciousness. The narrative also revisits the dawn of the universe, highlighting the role of light and organic molecules in the emergence of life and consciousness. The discussion on the primordial soup and the self-organizing behavior of organic molecules hints at an inherent drive towards complexity and consciousness, challenging conventional views of consciousness as a latecomer in evolutionary history. Instead, it proposes a cosmos where consciousness, through quantum processes and the intrinsic properties of light and matter, has been a guiding force from the universe's inception. This expansive exploration of consciousness, from its philosophical implications to its quantum underpinnings, invites a re-evaluation of our place in the universe. It suggests that consciousness may not merely be an emergent property of complex biological systems, but a fundamental feature of reality, intricately woven into the universe's fabric. Through this lens, the quest to understand consciousness becomes a journey to decipher the universe's deepest mysteries, revealing a cosmos where consciousness is both the canvas and the artist, crafting the tapestry of existence. The experience you described, of losing and then regaining consciousness under anesthesia, serves as a profound illustration of the elusive nature of consciousness itself. This state of being, or rather non-being you've encountered, is a stark reminder of how consciousness defines our perception of existence. When consciousness fades, the sense of self and the world vanishes, suggesting that the essence of what we consider reality is tightly interwoven with our conscious experience. The marvel of anesthesia, its ability to temporarily suspend consciousness, touches upon one of the most significant mysteries in both science and philosophy: the genesis of consciousness from the physical processes within our brains. Billions of neurons work in unison, not merely generating any form of conscious experience, but orchestrating the unique perspective each of us calls I. This phenomenon raises pivotal questions. How do the material processes of neurons translate into the subjective experience of consciousness? Why does consciousness feel the way it does, and how does it emerge from the non-conscious fabric of the physical world? Your speculation about the nature of consciousness, its relationship to intelligence, and its manifestation in both living organisms and potential artificial intelligences prompts deep reflection. You rightly differentiate consciousness from intelligence, suggesting that consciousness is more closely tied to our existence as living, breathing entities rather than to our cognitive capabilities. This distinction is crucial in understanding why sophisticated computers, despite their increasing computational powers, may not necessarily achieve consciousness. Consciousness might stem from the very fabric of biological life, a product of evolutionary pressures, and the need to navigate complex environments. Suggestions that are aligned with current scientific explorations into the nature of consciousness. The view of consciousness as a form of controlled hallucination is a fascinating one. It suggests that our brains, locked within the darkness of the skull, continuously make predictions about the external world based on the limited sensory data they receive. These predictions, or best guesses, are what we perceive as our reality. This model explains not only how we construct our immediate reality, but also how this process can be deceived, as illustrated by optical illusions and altered perceptions. It also posits that our sense of self, the coherent identity that experiences these perceptions, is itself a construct, a narrative generated by the brain to make sense of the sensory information it interprets. The rubber hand illusion experiment and its variations highlight how malleable our sense of self and body ownership can be, suggesting that the brain's perception of the body is adaptable and subject to change based on sensory input. This adaptability extends to our internal perception, where the brain monitors and regulates the body's internal state without our conscious awareness unless something goes wrong. This internal sensing and regulation, critical for our survival, suggests that the roots of consciousness are deeply embedded in the biological imperatives of life itself. Your exploration touches on a crucial point, that understanding consciousness may require a shift in perspective, from viewing it as a mysterious, almost magical phenomenon, to seeing it as an emergent property of complex biological processes. Just as the study of life transitioned from seeking a vital force to understanding life through the lens of chemistry and physics, so too might our understanding of consciousness evolve. By unraveling how the brain generates our experiences and sense of self, we can demystify consciousness, transforming it from an inscrutable enigma to a phenomenon explainable in terms of brain and body interactions. This shift has profound implications for psychiatry and neurology, offering new avenues for understanding and treating disorders of consciousness and self-perception. It underscores the uniqueness of human consciousness, while also connecting us to the broader tapestry of life, reminding us that our experiences are but one possible manifestation of consciousness in the natural world. Your reflection on the nature of consciousness, grounded in personal experience and informed by scientific inquiry, invites us to ponder the deep connections between our sense of self, our perception of reality, and the biological processes that sustain life. It challenges us to broaden our understanding of consciousness, not as a detached phenomenon, but as an integral part of the living world, shaping and shaped by the evolutionary journey of life on Earth. Consciousness is commonly understood as the state of being aware and awake, distinguishing it from unconscious states such as dreamless sleep. Yet some scientists pursue a different angle, exploring how the quality of conscious experience can be radically altered, particularly through the use of psychedelic drugs. These substances can significantly modify a person's conscious perception, offering vast, detailed, and intense experiences. Such research aims not only to deepen our understanding of consciousness, but also to explore potential treatments for issues affecting our daily lives. This approach suggests that psychedelics might target a fundamental mechanism of consciousness. Consciousness is essentially our experience of being, persisting beyond periods of dreamless sleep or anesthesia. It includes not just our baseline state, but also altered states of being. Chris Timmerman's work, for instance, involves the use of psychedelic substances to study changes in key aspects of the mind. This approach is likened to casting a stone into a calm pond to observe the resultant ripples. In everyday life, perception shapes our reality. During psychedelic experiences, this perception is altered, as seen in experiments with DMT, where participants report entering alternate, convincingly real dimensions. Contemporary neuroscience suggests that our perception of reality is a form of controlled hallucination, where we construct our reality. Psychedelics might allow access to the brain's mechanisms for constructing both extraordinary and ordinary realities. To explore these effects on perception and consciousness, Timmerman focuses on DMT, a compound found in various plants and a key ingredient in ayahuasca, used for centuries in the Amazon for its transformative experiences. DMT's appeal for research lies in its ability to reliably induce profound changes in the experience of reality, creating a sense of immersion in a new, vivid reality, all within a short duration. This makes it ideal for study within controlled environments, such as MRI scans, to observe brain activity throughout the experience. The resurgence of interest in psychedelic research attracted participants like Shamil, a longtime meditator curious about consciousness and self. His participation in DMT studies at the Center for Psychedelic Research at Imperial College London, where he was scanned before, during, and after DMT administration, provided insights into the psychedelic experience. These include intense energy, visual fractals, and dissolution of physical boundaries, leading to high-definition geometric patterns and realms beyond ordinary description. Such experiences are analyzed alongside changes in brain activity, revealing shifts in brain oscillations associated with different consciousness states. DMT's effect lowers alpha waves, typically dominant when the eyes are closed but not experiencing vivid sensory events, and elevates delta waves, associated with dream states, suggesting a detachment from the external world and the creation of convincing internal realities. Chris's research uses functional MRI, fMRI, to detail the effects of DMT on specific brain regions and networks, supporting the theory that consciousness resembles a controlled hallucination shaped by hierarchical brain systems. Psychedelics disrupt this hierarchy, allowing the brain to explore new models of reality with a depth of immersion akin to our normal lives. Understanding how psychedelics influence brain systems underlying consciousness could lead to novel treatments for mental health issues characterized by fixed, negative thought patterns like depression and anxiety. By enabling more flexible mental models, psychedelics hold promise for breaking cycles of rumination and promoting healthier mental states. The potential of DMT extends beyond clinical treatment to research tools, enabling personalized approaches to mental health and further exploration of consciousness alterations. This research not only seeks to address practical health needs, but also to unravel fundamental questions about the nature of human experience. The exploration of whether our awareness operates in a continuous stream or through distinct, intermittent segments represents a profound inquiry into the nature of consciousness. This question transcends the mere curiosity about the mechanics of perception, delving deep into the philosophical and scientific discourse that spans over millennia. The notion of consciousness as a seamless, unbroken experience, a narrative without pause or interruption, challenges the findings of contemporary cognitive science and revisits the deliberations of ancient philosophers and scholars. Historically, the conceptualization of consciousness as a continuous stream has been a default perspective, shaped largely by our subjective experience. From the moment we wake until we drift into sleep, consciousness seems like a continuous flow of perceptions, thoughts, and feelings. However, this intuitive understanding is complicated by observations and theories from both ancient wisdom traditions and modern neuroscience. The early Christian philosopher St. Augustine pondered the nature of time and consciousness, questioning how we can comprehend the flow of time, past, present, and future, within a moment of awareness. Similarly, The Abhidharma tradition in Buddhism considered consciousness not as a continuous flow but as a series of discrete moments, each a flash of experience followed by the next, suggesting a fundamentally segmented nature of awareness. These ancient inquiries have found echoes in contemporary research, particularly in the field of cognitive neuroscience. A pivotal commentary published by researchers from the Laboratory of Psychophysics at the École Polytechnique Fédérale de Lausanne in Switzerland has reignited the debate by proposing a nuanced understanding of consciousness that integrates both continuous and intermittent aspects. According to their framework, consciousness does not unfold as an unbroken stream. Instead, it comprises brief, discrete intervals of awareness punctuated by periods of unconscious information processing. This model suggests that our brains are engaged in a constant background process of analyzing and synthesizing information from our senses, even when we are not consciously aware of this process. The researchers draw upon a variety of experimental evidence to support this theory. One striking example involves the perception of visual stimuli, such as the presentation of two overlapping lines or sequentially shown colored discs. These experiments demonstrate that participants perceive a single, merged image rather than the individual stimuli, indicating a delay between the presentation of stimuli and conscious perception. This delay, estimated to be around 400 milliseconds, suggests that consciousness lags behind the actual events, with the brain engaging in rapid unconscious processing before the moment of awareness. The theory extends to auditory and tactile perceptions as well, illustrated by phenomena like the rabbit illusion, where sequential taps at different points on the arm are perceived as a continuous stroke. This illusion demonstrates how the brain retroactively constructs the sensation of continuity from discrete stimuli, further supporting the idea of intermittent consciousness. The implications of this research are profound, suggesting that our subjective experience of a continuous reality is constructed by the brain from discrete segments of awareness. The intermittent nature of consciousness allows for rapid, unconscious processing of sensory information, enabling the brain to synthesize a coherent narrative from fragmented inputs. This process is not only essential for perception and reaction in dynamic environments, as illustrated by the analogy of tumbling from a bicycle, but also underlies the complexity of human cognition and our experience of the world. The dual-phase model proposed by the researchers, likening the interaction between conscious and unconscious processing to the communication between a ship's captain and its engine room, offers a metaphorical understanding of how our brains navigate the vast sea of sensory information. This model emphasizes the necessity of unconscious computation, with consciousness emerging not as a constant stream, but as an episodic beacon, guiding our actions and perceptions based on the complex processing beneath the surface of our awareness. This contemporary perspective not only challenges our intuitive notions of consciousness, but also bridges the gap between ancient philosophical questions and modern scientific inquiry, underscoring the intricate and fragmented nature of our experience of reality. The study of consciousness, therefore, remains a frontier of human knowledge, where the mysteries of the mind continue to unfold through the lenses of philosophy, psychology, and neuroscience. If you've ever felt the unsettling sensation of plummeting through the air just as you're about to drift off to sleep, causing you to suddenly awaken, or if you've experienced this sensation just before rousing from slumber, you're not alone. About 70% of people have gone through this. This experience is known as a hypnic jerk, a phenomenon that occurs during the fascinating transitional phase from wakefulness to sleep called hypnagogia, which is often accompanied by bizarre hallucinations. For a considerable period, the intricacies, origins, and impacts of hypnagogia were not thoroughly explored, leaving many experts in psychology and neuroscience baffled by it. Nonetheless, recent advancements have shed light on the enigmatic characteristics of this dreamlike state. Numerous scholars have endeavored to decode the workings of hypnagogia. A particular research characterizes hypnagogia as a customary and benign state of mind that individuals frequently traverse into between wakefulness and sleep, marked by fundamental alterations in mental processes. This intermediary phase is encountered at the moments of sleep initiation and cessation, both when we're on the verge of sleeping and on the brink of awakening. These mental process alterations from states of alertness are believed to give rise to brief sensory episodes, or hypnagogic hallucinations, which occur spontaneously, without intent, and with a spectrum of intensity. The study indicates that about 85% of these hallucinations are visual. Roughly 35% produce tangible bodily sensations within and around the individual, and about 20% are related to hearing. Crucially, these hypnagogic hallucinations differ from other familiar sleep-associated sensations. In particular, hypnagogia is distinct from dreaming, parasomnias, or sleep paralysis. It represents a unique and normal type of hallucinatory experience. Although it may seem astounding that up to 70% of people might spend their waking or pre-sleep moments experiencing hallucinations, these transient experiences are typically mundane, straightforward, and many individuals might not even recognize that they undergo them. During the state of hypnagogia, as outlined in findings from the Journal of Sleep Research, individuals encounter a wide array of hallucinatory experiences, varying in how often they occur, their nature, their triggers, and their consequences. Visual hallucinations are the most frequently reported type of hypnagogic hallucination, exhibiting a variety of forms and intensities. These visual experiences often consist of abstract shapes, dots, patterns, or images that emerge within the mind's vision. They can vary in color, ranging from shades of black and white to vivid hues, movement, static or dynamic, and spatiality, flat or three-dimensional. The Tetris effect is named after the iconic video game involving geometric shapes and pertains to the visual impressions of repetitive tasks performed before going to bed. For instance, regular Tetris players might see mental images of the game's pieces aligning, reminiscent of scenarios depicted in the Netflix series The Queen's Gambit, where dedicated chess players visualize chessboards and moves. This effect can also extend to sensations related to routine physical, auditory, or tactile activities. Auditory hallucinations in the hypnagogic state can solely involve sounds or occur alongside other sensory experiences. The range of these auditory phenomena can vary from soft murmurs to startling crashes. Commonly imagined sounds include everyday noises such as ringing phones or doorbells, as well as brief fragments of speech, which can lead to hypnagogic speech, perceived by others as mumbled talk during sleep. Experiences involving other senses are also reported, including the sensation of tasting something, smelling distinct odors, or feeling a change in temperature. Some individuals might experience somatic illusions, like feeling numbness, a sensation of floating, or alterations in bodily perception. Nonetheless, the most frequently mentioned hypnagogic experience is the hypnic jerk, the sudden sensation of dropping. The study in question points out that some people are more susceptible to hypnagogia, with this susceptibility often being connected to the quality of one's sleep and various health conditions. Individuals exhibiting signs of suboptimal sleep quality, stemming from conditions such as insomnia, post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, depression, or anxiety, are more apt to experience hypnagogic states. Moreover, individuals with a strong belief in supernatural occurrences were also identified as being more susceptible to experiencing hypnagogia. Although associated with poor sleep and mood anxiety disorders, hypnagogia is recognized for its unique and advantageous influence on creativity and problem-solving. Research published in the Encyclopedia of Creativity suggests that hypnagogia, which permits the analytical examination of hallucinatory visuals while they are still perceivable, is notably useful for problem-solving tasks. This body of research has cited several historical figures, such as Auguste Kekulé, Beethoven, Salvador Dali, and Isaac Newton, who have acknowledged hypnagogia as a catalyst for their creative processes. This indicates that the hypnagogic phase is a rich source of innovative ideas and solutions that might not surface during other sleep stages or in the waking state. The study from the Journal of Sleep Research indicates that hypnagogia can indeed be intentionally induced, highlighting hypnosis as a viable method. The suggested technique involves a relaxation period of the primary muscle groups for 20-30 minutes, followed by a phase of indirect hypnotic suggestions lasting 15-20 minutes. This potential to induce hypnagogia deliberately not only broadens the scope of sleep research, but also offers individuals a chance to tap into their creative and problem-solving capacities in a purposeful way. Experimenting with the intentional induction of hypnagogia could be an enlightening and potentially enjoyable venture, as well as a means to leverage the distinctive advantages provided by this state of consciousness. In the twilight zone bridging alertness and slumber, hypnagogia reveals its enigmatic nature, a liminal phase teeming with peculiar hallucinations. Yet, When purposefully induced, this state can transform into a conduit for heightened creativity and innovative problem-solving. Whether naturally inclined towards it or actively seeking its induction, Hypnagogia presents a fascinating path for delving into the mind's undiscovered territories. When we awake from a nightmare, the abrupt transition from a vividly imagined peril to the calm of our bedroom is both jarring and enlightening. This moment of awakening illuminates a profound truth about human consciousness. The reality we perceive, whether in dreams or while awake, is a construct of our minds. Lucid dreaming, a state in which the dreamer becomes aware that they are dreaming, serves as a fascinating lens through which to explore this phenomenon. It offers an experiential understanding that the reality experienced in dreams can be as rich and immersive as our waking life. This understanding is not just theoretical. It is felt deeply by those who have ventured into the realm of lucid dreaming, including myself. The phenomenon of lucid dreaming has captivated public interest, as seen in features such as the ABC Nightline report on the work of Stephen LaBerge, a psychologist who has pioneered techniques for inducing lucid dreams. The vivid recounting of lucid dream experiences by individuals like Chris Moss underscores the astonishing reality of the dream state. Such testimonials invite curiosity and encourage others to explore the potential of lucid dreaming, not just for the novelty of controlling one's dreams, but for the profound implications it holds for our understanding of consciousness. Lucid dreaming reveals that the brain possesses an extraordinary capacity to generate immersive, detailed worlds devoid of any external sensory input. This internal virtual reality generator crafts experiences that are as tangible and coherent as those derived from the physical world. This realization challenges our conventional understanding of reality. The distinction between waking and dreaming states blurs as we recognize that both are constructs of the brain, albeit with different constraints. Waking life is continuously shaped and validated by sensory information, anchoring it to a shared external reality. Dreams, however, are bound only by the limits of our imagination, unfettered by the sensory input that governs our waking experiences. The implications of this understanding are profound. Philosophers and neuroscientists, including Thomas Metzinger and V.S. Ramachandran, suggest that consciousness, whether in wakefulness or dreams, is fundamentally the same. It is a virtual reality constructed by the brain, with the self as a participant within this constructed world. This perspective posits that what we consider real is, in fact, a highly sophisticated model created by our brains, a model so convincing that it becomes indistinguishable from reality itself. Yet, the realization that our waking experience is also a form of virtual reality does not diminish its significance. Instead, it enriches our appreciation of the mind's power to create our experienced reality. Lucid dreaming serves as a direct demonstration of this power, offering a glimpse into the flexibility and creativity of the human mind. It also provides a unique opportunity for exploration and self-discovery, allowing us to experiment with the boundaries of our perceived reality. Furthermore, the practice of lucid dreaming and the insights gained from it holds potential implications beyond personal enlightenment. It challenges the solidity of our assumptions about the nature of reality and our place within it. Recognizing that our conscious experience is a subjective construction rather than a direct reflection of the external world can humble our claims to knowledge and open our minds to new possibilities of understanding. This realization has ethical dimensions as well. How we navigate and interact within these constructed realities, be they virtual environments accessed through technology or the fluid landscapes of our dreams, reflects and shapes our character. The choices we make in these spaces, while seemingly detached from physical consequences, bear upon our ethical self-conception. They test and reveal our values, our empathy, and our capacity for reflection. In conclusion, the exploration of lucid dreaming not only expands our understanding of the mind's capabilities, but also challenges our deepest held beliefs about reality and self. It prompts a re-evaluation of what it means to experience, to know, and to be. By recognizing the constructed nature of our experiences, we are invited to approach life with a renewed sense of wonder, curiosity, and humility. Lucid dreaming, in its unique blend of vividness and malleability, offers a powerful metaphor for the human condition. We are both creators and inhabitants of the worlds we live in, navigating the delicate balance between perception and reality. Déjà vu, a term borrowed from French that translates to already seen, is a complex and fascinating phenomenon that most of us have experienced at least once in our lifetimes. This phenomenon encompasses a sudden, mysterious feeling that an event or experience currently unfolding has happened before, despite there being no evidence to support that belief. The literary giant Charles Dickens eloquently described this sensation in his masterpiece, David Copperfield, capturing the essence of déjà vu as an unexpected, vivid recollection of an unplaceable past. This fleeting yet intense experience often leaves individuals puzzled, describing it in awe as an uncanny sense of familiarity with a new situation, a paradox that has intrigued both scientists and philosophers alike. Déjà vu has long been the subject of fascination and speculation, straddling the realms of neurology, psychology, and even the mystical. Surveys suggest that around 1/3 of the population has experienced what is considered the most common form of déjà vu sensations, highlighting its prevalence across different cultures and backgrounds. The experience is not just limited to recognizing a place or situation. It can also involve multisensory cues such as sounds, smells, and tactile sensations, adding layers of complexity to this already enigmatic phenomenon. Arthur Funkhauser, delving deeper into the intricacies of déjà vu, categorizes it into 3 distinct types: déjà vécu, already lived; déjà senti, already felt; and déjà visité, already visited, each offering a lens through which to view the different facets of déjà vu. Déjà vécu, the most commonly reported type, is characterized by the detailed and often multisensory sensation of reliving a specific moment, complete with foreknowledge of what will happen next. Déjà senti, on the other hand, is a purely mental phenomenon, a flash of recognition or familiarity with a thought or feeling that seems to have been experienced before, but without the spatial or temporal context. Lastly, déjà visité involves a spatial dimension, where one feels a strong familiarity with a place they have never visited before. These classifications not only help in understanding the various presentations of déjà vu, but also suggest that the phenomenon might be rooted in different neurological or cognitive processes. Theories abound regarding the origins and mechanisms of déjà vu, with researchers proposing several possible explanations. One prominent theory posits that déjà vu occurs due to a mismatch in the brain's sensory integration processes, where a small piece of sensory information, a sight, sound, or smell, triggers a full-blown, 3-dimensional recollection of a past memory, leading to the confusion between past and present. Another theory suggests a glitch in the brain's memory system, where information bypasses the usual short-term to long-term memory transfer mechanism, creating an illusion of an experience being far older than it actually is. Yet another explanation considers the role of delayed cognitive processing, where the brain perceives and processes information with a slight lag, causing the unsettling feeling of experiencing and remembering an event simultaneously. Beyond the realm of neuroscience, psychoanalytic and even parapsychological perspectives offer alternative explanations for déjà vu, ranging from the subconscious mind's attempt at wish fulfillment to speculations about past lives and reincarnation. While these interpretations lack the empirical support found in neuroscientific research, they contribute to the rich tapestry of theories attempting to unravel the mystery of déjà vu. At the heart of the déjà vu experience is the question of the self's role in these episodes. Many reports of déjà vu include a strong sense of conscious awareness during the event, suggesting that the phenomenon is not just a passive experience, but may involve active participation by the individual's sense of self. Some individuals have even reported the ability to intentionally recall the feelings and images associated with déjà vu, suggesting that these experiences can be more than just fleeting moments of confusion. They can be gateways to exploring the depths of human consciousness and memory. The exploration of déjà vu is not merely an academic exercise. It holds the potential to unlock deeper understandings of human memory, consciousness, and the self. By studying déjà vu, researchers and thinkers venture into the uncharted territories of the mind, seeking to understand how our brains construct reality, how memory and perception intertwine, and ultimately, how our sense of self is shaped by our experiences. Despite the challenges in researching such a subjective and elusive phenomenon, the pursuit of understanding déjà vu is a testament to the human desire to comprehend the mysteries of our existence, pushing the boundaries of what we know about the workings of the human mind.